Hey everybody, welcome back to ChampnSons and our ChampnSons Racing series, where we are still in the truck series, but we're going to be taking on the Corrigan Oil 200. Now this is at a standard speedway track. It is not anything, that's special. The turns aren't very well banked, but one thing I do love about this track is how wide it is. And you'll see that as we go around here on our qualifying lap. Now our truck is set up a little bit better. We have updated our aero package now to be at a 95, and same thing with our suspension. So we're not quite yet to having that, premier truck. We're still slightly below it, but we are bringing ourselves along pretty nicely. And this is going to be one of the last races before the playoffs. We will get into the group of 10 round here in this episode. That will be the next race. It's going to be the first one in the group of 10. So keep an eye out for that one as we get to it. But first we do have to get through this, and we need to have a good finishing spot to actually be able to make it. To set ourselves up with the point differential be better, right? So we had our win in the last episode, and now that's really what got us into the playoffs. And now we need to make that push to essentially continue. And the only way really to do that is we're going to have to beat out some of the other drivers that are right there on that edge, fighting for those playoff spots. And so we're going to have to put together some good runs. And that's going to be the most important thing. And we're going to have to get ourselves started off here in Michigan at the Corrigan Oil 200. We qualify 14th with a time of basically at 43 seconds. Now the leader is going to be Ross Chastain at 41.5, so a second and a half quicker than what we are. So we know that's where the front of the pack is. We're going to have to drive aggressive in this one to try to get up into that group, and then kind of maybe hopefully with the truck set up for the race, we'll be able to kind of maintain inside that first group. Now if you notice that right there, Ross Chastain, who did have the pole originally coming out of qualifying, failed the inspection, so he was pushed to the back of the line. So now instead of 14th, we are actually going to be starting out here in 13th as we take this green flag here to get this race started. And we will have 3 stages. The first 2 will be 9 laps each. And so we won't have too much time to make our way to the front, but we are going to have some time available. It's just really we're going to have to find our lanes. And right here, coming into turn 1 and out of 2, we're able to get a good run on some cars there, especially with some of that side draft happening since we updated the aero package. Kind of helped to sling us along right there as we've already moved ourselves into a top 10 position here in P number 7. Coming into turns 3 and coming around to turn 4. We're actually now in P6, getting past Crafton right there into a P5 spot. But here comes Herbst, and he is pushing up on this one hard. He'll complete the first lap in P5, but we have moved up to P6. And if you can check in the mirror in the top part of the screen, we're already starting to see some of that separation that happens here on speedways between the groups of the trucks. And so hopefully we can just kind of maintain with Infinger, Herbst, and then Friesen right there in 3rd place, and kind of keep that group alive so we can maintain with them and get ourselves around the track and set ourselves up for later on in the race. Now here on lap number 2, diving down into the bottom of turn number 3, that's going to push us into 4th, and actually we're able to squeeze past Friesen, if not only for a second, and claim P3 for just a brief moment. As we slide back up the track, make slight contact with Friesen, but we do drop back down into P4 here after 2 laps, coming into lap number 3 of stage 1 here in Michigan. Now Infinger does get behind us, and he is drafting along with us, so that's going to give us a pretty good push and move us up into a P2 spot coming out of turn 2. But on the back straightaway, Infinger gets into our bumper and kind of almost pushes us sideways, so we will have to let off the gas to recover. And now you see Sauter, Friesen, and Herbst make their move. But we do recover it pretty well coming out of that. Then Friesen hammers us pretty decently coming into turn number 3 to try to push us around. It did help move us up into a P2 position, but you will see it does cause a little bit of damage to our rear bumper there as we get through the first 3 laps in P2. Now we come into the back end of stage number 1. 2 laps remaining here, lap 8 and 9. And we've got our draft partner with us, Herbst, kind of trying to get us a push. We are in P3 right now. But it looks like Gilliland and Friesen are up in front of us, and Herbst trying to get us pushed up into that group. Although we're not seeing much of a result from it. And that's one thing I have noticed with these speedways, is the drafting doesn't always seem to have that big of an effect. It does at times, especially when you're coming into and out of turns. But on straightaways and all that, it just doesn't seem to have the same effect as you get on the super speedways at like Talladega or Daytona. So we will have to maybe continue to work on our car and our setup to try to work on that. We did go into this one with a little bit looser of a setup, and that's not very good when Herbst is hitting your bumper to be getting loose and coming into turns, but we are able to maintain control there. And taking a look as we come into this final lap of stage number 1, our tire wear, we're down to around the mid-70s, which is actually pretty decent. So we're definitely not going to pit, obviously, before the end of stage 2, unless there's a caution that comes out. But I think we're set up pretty dang well here with the way our truck is running. Now, Zane Smith is giving us a push as we will cross the finish line here in P3 to finish off stage number 1 here at Michigan in the Corrigan Oil 200. As Gilliland in first, Friesen in second, Zane Smith in fourth, and then Riley Herbst is going to take 5th position here at the end of stage 1. Now, I mentioned our tire wear and everything. If you look at that, it's actually pretty decent here with what we have, knowing that stage 2 is going to be about 9 laps as well, so we have no need to pit at that time. So we just head on over to get ready for the green flag here to get stage 2 started off, and we can try to make a run and hopefully grab a lead and try to maintain it at this point. We are pretty good on the restarts. That's been our biggest thing, is coming out of the green flag. We have good starts. It allows us to be aggressive as we send it into the bottom of turn number 1. And we will take over P1 here with Zane Smith right on our tail. Not really drafting us yet. If they could, would probably give us a little bit of separation, but Smith trying to take over the first place position here on the back straightaway, so we will have to block him on that one. And now we're still in P number 1 coming into turn number 3 here on the first lap of stage number 2. We slide up just a little bit. Smith gets a run, and we're able to dive it back down in front of him and block him. Coming out at turn number 4, and we are going to actually have the lead here in Michigan after lap number 1 of stage 2. And that's going to be a big start for us to try to give us some additional possible points for laps led and all that. And so, but here on lap number 2, we come into turn 1 a little too hefty. And we actually slide up the track some, which is going to send Zane Smith up to the front. And Gilliland comes up from behind us now. He is drafting with us. But mainly that's just because we blocked him off and he's trying not to drop back too far. So he sends us up into trying to get up behind Zane Smith there. And actually, if we can get a 3-way draft going, that might provide us with some separation from the rest of the cars. Now he sends us off down low after that one, and we almost end up going into pit lane. Little out of control right there as we finish off lap number 2, needing to try to maintain our spot here and coming into lap number 3, still in a P2 position. Lap 3 of 9 here for stage 2 with Gilliland behind us, Zane Smith now in the lead, and he's getting separation little by little. It's not happening very quickly, but I can tell his car is getting smaller. Well, his car, his truck is getting smaller. So we are going to have to choose our lines carefully, especially coming in and out of these turns. And Gilliland actually slid up and hit the wall right there, coming at the end of turn number 3. So now we're going to move on to the end here of stage number 2 as we are back in a P1 position with 2 laps remaining. Zane Smith is behind us, Ross Chastain as well. And he tries to come on the outside. We block Smith down low. It is driving. We're basically one truck trying to block 2 lanes here on the back straightaway of lap number 8 and stage number 2 as we come into turn number 3 here, still in the lead. Having a pretty good position right there, but Smith making his run from down below. We have to go down and block him, and Chastain takes full advantage. Because we know he's got a really good car, but comes around on lap number 9. He actually takes over the P1 spot, and so we slide back into second But Zane Smith trying to give us a little push around, and he actually will, as we almost slide up into Chastain, almost lose control right there coming out of turn number 1. And then out of turn number 2, Smith giving us a shove. That's going to keep us in first place here on the back straightaway once again. It's going to take some tricky blocking here to prevent them from getting in front of us. As we come down to the bottom of turn number 3, as we enter it, Zane Smith is right behind us. Chastain maintaining that almost the outside lane as he's going to try to make a run here coming out of turn 4. And we can't get up in time enough to block him. We bounce off Chastain a little bit. And we actually will. That contact was just enough to get him to slow down. And we'll actually take first place here in stage number 2 and claim 10 points on that one. So now we're going to go ahead and jump into stage number 3. We are in a P4 spot. We have slid back just slightly. We're on lap 49 of 52, so 4 laps remaining. As we come around, and there goes Brett Moffitt right down under us. We lost a little bit of control coming in turn 1 and then turn 2, and so we slid up the track, and Moffitt takes full advantage. Now, one thing I've said about speedways is you run into lap traffic. You know, you're going to do that. You're going to run into some lap traffic, and I think we're going to have to try to use that to our advantage. And if we be aggressive and we time everything out correctly, we should be able to make a run here and try to get a little bit better positioning than just P5. We got a lot of space behind us happening. So we got 3 laps remaining. I'm not worried about anybody catching us from behind. I'm just trying to catch Moffitt. And we are trying to, our truck is a little loose. It is getting looser by the lap. And if you notice right there, someone went sliding up into the wall, and that's going to cause a green or cause a yellow flag, a caution flag to go out. So we are going to have a restart, and it's actually going to be an overtime restart right now. We are going to go green, white, checker. That is how this thing will happen. We are in P5. If we can get that good start and be aggressive with it, we may be able to slide into second place or even try to take the lead here. It's just going to be hard to maintain if we are able to take the lead. So coming into the white flag, we're getting ready for the white flag coming around after this one. Lap 53, we dive it down low. Zane Smith goes to block us. Friesen stuck in the middle. He's normally should be sliding back because he is stuck in that middle, but we got to maintain our line here. Just getting kind of hard to do with our tires, and we bump Friesen a little bit. He gets loose and makes contact with us once again. We are in P2 as we slide up into Friesen one more time, and then we come back down to the bottom of turn number 3 here as we enter it in a P2 position. Friesen is going to give us a push now, trying to make P1 here with 1 lap remaining as we come around to the finish line to take that white flag. This is going to be it, the final lap, and we are in a P1 spot. We need Friesen to maintain with us. Zane Smith takes the outside part, and he actually kind of catches us, if only for a moment, as we dive down low in the bottom of turn number 1. We slide up just a little bit. We can't get down in time. Friesen moves in front of us. Chastain makes hard contact with us and pushes us up the track, but we do slide in front of Moffitt at least here into P4 position. And that might be the best we can do. Coming into turn number 3, Chastain does dive down and block us right there. Trying to at least hold on to P number 4 as Moffitt is making his push, especially coming out of this turn number 4. I know he's going to try to get around us with this draft he's got, but he's going to be unable to. We will claim a top 5 finish here in Michigan with a P4 to go, and that's going to be a good way to send us into the playoffs. A pretty good run for us. Could have been better. But, overall pretty decent. Our speed rating is a 93 with an engine being rated at a 95. I think we could do better. And I might also have to look at changing the setup on the car as well. Now that's going to take us into an official playoff race here at the WWT Raceway. It is a speedway track in the Car Shield 200. And here we are in qualifying. This is kind of a goofy shaped track. You'll notice that it's got those little bumper things or curb or whatever down at the bottom of the apron there. You got to be careful for that. It is fairly wide at some points, but then it gets thin in others. It's kind of really weird design. It's an odd shape, and so we are going to have to be careful with the way we take these turns. Coming into turn 1 and then coming into turn number 3. Coming out of them, I think we have a pretty good handle with our speed and keeping up, maintaining, and actually increasing our speed. And on this front straightaway, we're really going to need to do that if you see how crammed in we are right there. As we do take the 12th position in qualifying at this raceway. When we look at those who qualified in front of us, We came in at 36.3 basically. Ben Rhodes 34.7. So once again, another second and a half ahead of us as far as the qualifying time goes. So we are going to have to once again be aggressive. That's what we have to do, is be aggressive in these races. And that's one thing that speedways allow, is they allow you to be aggressive. I guess this might be considered a short track, actually, although I think it's really more of a speedway. It's definitely about a mile and a half long track, so I think we are definitely looking at a speedway-style track instead of a short one. Now here we come around the front straightaways. We take the green flag as we are in P12 to get this race started. Stage number 1 is going to be 17 laps, and this is going to be a long-haul kind of race. As we come into turn number 1, and we actually come a little aggressive on Austin Hill there, who's another playoff racer. You can see it's indicated under his name, round of 10. He is another one of our competitors here in the playoffs that we have to beat out. But right now he's blocking us pretty decently as we come into turn number 3. We stay on the outside, unable to get around him. The momentum just is not helping us get to the turn on the outside. Now we swing it out a little wide coming out of turn number 4, lose control slightly, almost run into Anderson and put him into the wall. Come up, make slight contact with Zane Smith. Got to hold on to it. Our truck setup is a little looser than normal, so I'm having to get control of that here, and not really in the situation you want to be in as we are on the second lap of stage number 1, trying to still get a feel for this car. Now one thing you notice, if you look in the mirror, the groups are separated again. You have your top racers up here, and if you notice, it looks like they're actually number 1 and 2 are separated from everybody else. But then we have the back half of the group. And we're making pretty good pace between us. So I think as long as we maintain a solid lap pace and a good line coming into these turns and out of these turns, we should be able to stick up with this front group as we swing out a little wide there coming out of turn number 2. Got to get control of our truck. That's going to be a big thing. Once again, a little looser of a setup, so we are losing control just slightly more, having to deal with the brakes and making sure we don't go sliding either completely out of the way, all the way up the track into the wall, or just lose total control. So lap number 3 is almost complete here at WWT Raceway, as we would be just on the outside of the top 10. Now we come into the final closing laps here of stage number 1. We've got about 4 laps remaining. We have moved ourselves into a P8 position, and one of the biggest things for that is the lap traffic that is in front of us. Everybody is battling with it, and we just have to try to use it to our advantage. One problem is you see guys like Lassard just not get out of the way like really they should, and we go sliding up too hard into them and actually cause a little bit of damage to our bumper coming out of turn number 4 right there and on this front straightaway. And we're actually going to go ahead and claim first. We were not lapped, or claim 8th, on this first stage. We weren't lapped, so I'm not sure what caused them to end it a couple laps early. Maybe a slight glitch in the game, but either way, we at least take P8 here in stage 1 of this first playoff race. And now one thing to notice is if you look at our tire wear, 86, 85, 84, 78, we have got a really good aero package now. It's really, and with this truck, it's kind of designed for this track, and it's working out really well for us. I do have some control issues I need to work out, but that's more me, not the truck. And so I think we're pretty good set up, knowing the second stage is going to be around 17 laps. No need to pit at all. Nobody else did. So we maintain out there with everybody else. And it looks like except for maybe one guy, and so we are actually in 7th now to start this one as we get the green flag underway here in stage number 2 as we are in the 7th spot, driving aggressively, trying to squeeze in between Creed and Gilliland there as we do pass Anderson. Gilliland is another round of 10 racer we have to be on the watch for and try to finish better than him. So coming on the back straightaway into turn number 2, that front group is trying to separate from us. But we've got a pretty good, decent line coming into 3 and out of 4 that actually allows us to keep a pretty good pace with our speed. And that should actually help us stick with this front group. And this is a long stage. This is a long race in general. So we have to be patient, right? We can't just try to force everything. We need to be aggressive, don't get me wrong. But we know we're going to come into lap traffic. And in the end, we can use that to our advantage. We just have to make the right moves at the right time. So sitting here in P6, still trying to get past Gilliland, but he is doing a hell of a job blocking us and preventing us from getting into that P5 position coming around out of turn number 4 here on the front straightaway. At least we are maintaining with this front pack, and they're not escaping too far out too quickly as we come into turn number 1 here on lap number 3 in stage 2. Good Lord, that was a lot of numbers coming at you at once. Now Gilliland's still in front. I keep wanting to try the outside. I really want to take the outside, or at least that middle part of the turn, but I just can't get the momentum to maintain. You know, you come in, you have to let off the gas a little bit, or else I'm just going to lose complete control. So I cannot just maintain enough momentum to push on the outside to try to get that pass. We're going to have to set them up in a different way. Now we come into the later part of stage number 2. We have taken over P5. Ben Rhodes is in front of us here. We've got about 4 or 5 laps left. We have moved up to P5, but look at what is in front of us. Just a jumble of cars in front, and we're going to use all of them to our advantage as we make an aggressive push down low and slide up in between and almost lose control of the truck, but we have to hit the brakes hard. And that allows us to keep some form of control as we have actually slid up into a P1 position coming out of turn number 4 right there. That was an aggressive maneuver that almost cost us, as we almost went sliding into the wall, but we maintained control. We have a bunch of lap traffic coming up. It's just, like I said, we got to time out our moves. Boyd right now got to get around him. Now knowing that Hill is coming up right on us, I'm trying to pin him up behind Boyd, but Hill is actually pretty good at avoiding those. And so he dives down real quick and gets around Boyd. So now we got to look at our next target in front of us that we're going to be lapping here to try to use them to our advantage. Still sitting here in the P1 spot. Rayoum in the 25th position. We're going to end up lapping him. I need to be careful with this one. But we get past him pretty quickly and too easily. So you know Austin Hill is going to get past him as well. Now we actually lose a little bit of control and almost lose the truck on that turn. We have to hit the brakes a little bit, and Austin Hill's going to come up down low and actually squeeze us out for the P1 position as we try the middle part of this track once again, coming into 3 and 4 and just unable to maintain our speed. And so now here comes Sauter behind us. It's Hill, us, and then Sauter with only about 3 laps remaining. Actually 2 laps remaining now in stage number 2 as we are in the P2 position. Coming up to some more lap traffic, trying to use them to our advantage, but our tires are wearing down. Our brakes are wearing down. This is a long race, and so our focus is wearing down. Now coming down on the back straightaway, we get past Decker there. Hill, I'm still chasing him for that P1 spot. I stick it to the outside there. Nowhere to go, so we dive back down low behind Hill. Hopefully he gets caught behind. If I can make a little aggressive move, but I'm not able to, so Hill actually comes up and blocks us again and maintains first coming into this final lap of stage number 2. Now we actually run into Hill, kind of give him a little bit of a nudge there, hoping he might lose some control, but not having it today as he maintains everything coming out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway. He is in the first place position. We are in second, trying to chase him down as he makes space between us. Now we've closed it down on these turns. Turns 3 and 4, we've got our line. Even 1 and 2 are pretty decent for the most part, but we've got a pretty good line here coming out of turn 4 on the last lap as we cross the finish line in stage number 2 in second place. That's going to give us 9 points right there. Sauter was in third, Rhodes fourth, and Ross Chastain coming in 5th to round out the top 5 of your stage 2 results here at the WWT Raceway as we get set for stage number 3. Now we are in P2 and we are going to have to pit. You can't avoid it at this stage with the number of laps we have remaining and all that. We do have to pit, but our crew has become top notch. We have gotten them all advanced up to 100, so we actually moved up into the P1 spot in front of Austin Hill here as we get the green flag here to start stage number 3, basically halfway through the race, 43 laps remaining. We're on lap 38 of 80. So I want to get a good start, but we have to remember to stay patient as we actually slide down a little too low on that one, almost lose control as we hit that little curve thing on the apron down low. Coming into the back straightaway, we're still in a P1 position, but here comes Hill and Sauter. They are going to be pushing for this top spot. As I can tell, coming into turn number 3, unable to get separation from the group and actually almost driving into the grass. That's a little control we have right now, even with our new tires. We go up to Block Hill, and here comes Sauter, so at least we will have 1 lap under our belt in a lead position here at the raceway as we dive down low in the bottom of turn number 1 to block Sauter off from taking that one from us. Coming out of turn number 2 on the back straightaway, still trying to figure out who do we need to block, Sauter or Hill. They're both right there. Hill makes his nudge first, so we go down low and block him. Swing it out wide a little bit. Have to dive it back down low immediately. Now we kind of screw up our turn, so Hill's going to get a pretty decent run on us. And as soon as we go to block him, Sauter takes full advantage, and he's going to go down low, and actually so does Ben Rhodes. So we fall from the first position all the way down to 3rd, and we're stuck on the outside as we hit Rhodes pretty violently there. But both of us maintain control there in turn number 1, coming out of turn number 2 on the back straightaway. An unintentional hit. I have no issues with Rhodes, really. But just kind of lost a little bit of control there, trying to drive it too aggressive, too fast, too quick. And so we do lose control and fall back into a P3 spot. Now, Sauter is the only one ahead of us right now that is in the round of 10. So we've got to maintain focus also on where we are in that group. We need to be sure to, finish near the top of every single one of these races as we almost lock up our tires. We lock them up just a little bit, force them to smoke, and that's going to hinder us in the long run, especially as we get later on in this race. And speaking of later on in this race, here we are in a P3 spot right behind Sauter, coming into some lap traffic, trying to make a push to grab it in the last about 7 laps here as we get past Fogelman. It's really about the 2nd time we've lapped that guy. He's pretty well behind everybody. As we're still stubborn enough to not stay down low and just try to set someone up coming out of a turn or coming into one. When we try the middle lane of this pretty wide turns and unable to maintain any extra momentum or speed, so we had to give up on that pass. We'll fall in line right behind Sauter. Just a couple laps left, and that time we actually make contact, and it forces us off the track. And I switched views because I just want to see what kind of damage was done. Not a whole lot. It's enough that, if we look at the stats on it, it'll be yellow. Don't get me wrong, it'll definitely be yellow. But nothing, to cause, I don't think, any aerodynamic problems for us. So we maintain out there in the 3rd position as we come around turn number 4 onto the front straightaway, looking to have about 6 laps remaining, sitting here in the P3 spot. A lot of lap traffic in front of us, waiting our time. I mentioned being patient earlier. That's what we have to do here, is we have to be patient in these races. These speedways, these raceways, we know this is going to happen. Just be patient, take our shot when it comes to us, but don't try to force it. That's going to be the biggest thing. Don't try to force it. As Sauter right now is kind of caught behind a couple guys, we may be able to make a move. If I can force him down low, and I actually force Sauter down low, get past Nemechek and Roosh. We're in P2. We are now in a P2 spot with about 5 laps remaining coming into turn number 1. Sauter is going to be hot on our trail. He got past that lap traffic pretty quick. And in fact, he goes down low on us here on the back straightaway, and he's going to get past. In reality, I do try to wreck him. I'm not going to lie. I try to push him down off. But the AI recovery that I have is set at like the highest level. That's pretty hard to actually do to get him to spin out. As we fall back into the 3rd place, as Sauter just got done toying with us apparently, and gets right past us here as we come into 4 laps remaining in this race. We're on lap 77 of 80, coming into turn number 1. Looking at the traffic in front of us, we swing it out too wide. We come in too fast, too wide, and we burn out our tire right there. We don't have much tire left. It's a decent amount, but enough to get us through to the end. But we got to stop doing turns like that if we really want to have a shot of not blowing this tire here. So coming into turn number 3, we've maintained to keep a little bit of speed here, and we are right on Sauter's tail. If you notice, Ben Rhodes, the leader, is separating out quickly. He's almost about halfway through with turn 1 as we just crossed the finish line. So 3 laps remaining. Sauter is in front of us. The only one realistically we can catch if we could stop locking up our tires. I really want to go that mid-round outside of the turn, but every time I do now, my tires are bad enough I just have to lock them up because I don't have the momentum to carry me through. Now coming into turn number 3, Brett Moffitt was getting passed by Sauter. He is lapped and was going a lap down, especially to me right now. But Sauter's able to get past him, and he almost blocks us off, but we make a pretty smooth move to prevent that. Now 2 laps remaining here at the WWT Raceway. Still in a P3 position right behind Sauter. So here we come, and this is going to be our time. We're not going to have much time left to make a push here, but Sauter's actually getting space. So if he can hit this traffic, I really need them to go 2 lanes. If I can get the AI and the lap traffic to go 2 lanes basically, that'll really help me make a move on Sauter to try to take over second place. As even Ben Rhodes, our gap between him and first has actually closed a little bit just because of this problem. Now here we come into lap number 1, the final lap of the race. We make a push to get around Anchor and our tires lock up, but we maintain control. Got Cobb in front of us. And here we go down below between Cobb and Lassarda. We're actually going to make a move into P number 2. And he gets stuck behind us. He has to wait. So coming into turn number 3, we are in a P2 position, and that is where we should be. So we will qualify to make it to the next round of the playoffs here in the Truck Series as we get ready and come across the finish line in P2. What a great race at the WWT Raceway. And that's how you need to finish when you're in the round of 10, pushing the other guys out of the way, being aggressive, and taking your spot where you deserve it as we come across, and that's going to be a good way to get us going in to these next playoff races. So with that in mind, I do just want to remind y'all to hit the subscribe button if y'all have not already. And also, if you did like today's video, you like racing, the Truck Series, NASCAR, all that, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, as it really does help out the channel, and we greatly appreciate everything that y'all do for us here at ChampnSons Gaming Network and all the support y'all have shown us over the last few months. It's been crazy. I can't tell you how grateful I am for that. So thank y'all very much. And thank y'all for joining us in this episode. And the next one, we'll continue with the playoffs and see if we can't make a stir here in our second season in the Truck Series. So once again, thank y'all for joining us. I will see y'all in the next episode, everybody. So as always, stay safe. And well, as we get simming through these dirt track races, y'all know how it goes, right? Later, y'all.